Hey gang, it's me. Why am I not at the park and why am I sitting in front of a few of my, brace yourself, 18 aquariums, instead doing my daily chat? And that's because yesterday and today we ran into technical problems and I won't bore you with it, yada, 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 they're unusable. So I am re-recording right now after freeing up, I think 5.67 gigabytes of memory, that was the problem, on my Google 4A 5G, which by the way, I have also just ordered to be replaced and tomorrow will replace with the Google 8. And this should not be an issue. Anyway, let's just get into what I did talk about today once already and see if I can do it twice. I want to talk to you today about the authorized impeachment inquiry of President Biden. Now, before I get into this, it's the big story of the day, and before I get too deeply into it, I want to make very clear, I don't care who you vote for. And I'm not going to get into the individual positions of either Trump or Biden or Haley or DeSantis or anybody else for that matter. I'm strictly going to talk about, in using my critical thinking and wisdom, what's really going on here and what you can expect. Because what you're hearing in the present is just, well, it depends on where you're hearing it. You know, what's happened now to media is that there's a sector that appeals to all of our cognitive biases. So, you know, you can be an old guy like me and be the stereotype and sit in your living room on a lazy boy recliner watching Fox News all day long and yelling, hell yeah, at the screen every time they agree with you. Or you could be a pink-haired, pierce-nosed, progressive 24-year-old who believes the world's going to end in 2030 and don't tell me there's any contrary point of view kind of thing. So, you know, I really don't want to go there. I just want to talk about the impeachment inquiry, what led to it. I'm going to compare it to the Trump impeachment to give you some context, but not a political context. But we must start with this one political assumption, which is both parties want to win. That's all they're about. They don't really give, in a typical year, a political party doesn't care one bit about what the positions are of the candidate as long as the candidate's going to win. Now, put that thought aside for a minute while we talk about President Biden's impeachment inquiry. I believe it's fully justified because there's an awful lot of smoke. And when there's a lot of smoke, there's usually a fire. And yesterday, when Hunter Biden ignored a congressional subpoena, which he no longer can do because now that the House voted to authorize the inquiry, now the subpoenas are official, and if he ignores them, they will lock him in jail in contempt. But I don't want to get too far down that road. The word that Hunter Biden used was that weasel word. We all know what weasel words are. We've all used weaseling, you know. Here's the word he used. My father had no, what was the word? Oh, no financial connection to my business enterprises. Now remember when this all began during the debate between Trump and Biden, Biden flatly denied and lied and has since lied about this one instance alone more times than I can count, and said he had nothing at all to do with his son's business, never spoke to his son's business contacts, so on and so forth. Now that the evidence is crystal clear that he did talk to his son's associates, and he did talk to his son about business, and there's a lot of phone records and emails that basically make it impossible to deny, now we're down to he was not financially involved. And now what they're going to do is try to prove whether or not he was in fact financially involved, and if he was, then he would theoretically be impeached because that would be a solid case of corruption and crime, felonies and misdemeanors. What is it? Something crimes and misdemeanors. But anyway, that's a felony. My God, that's plenty to go away for. However, I don't think it's going to get that far. What I think is going on for real in the case of Joe Biden is that the Democrat Party wants to win. The Democrat Party is, of the two political parties, the most likely to exercise power to get its way because that is the nature of progressivism. At the core of progressivism is the belief that a human being can be perfected through government programs. Now, a conservative hears that as government coercion, and their central belief is that a person's nature cannot be changed, that the government should do as little to disturb the natural nature of people as possible, and certainly not try to socially engineer. Now, if you look at that and take a step back, that means that a progressive is much more likely to meddle in let's say an election cycle than a conservative would be, because it's not naturally in a conservative's thought process to do that. Now, having said that, the Democrats have set up a primary system that twice before fucked Bernie Sanders out of the nomination. Bernie Sanders should have been nominated in 2016 and 20. And the reason that he wasn't nominated in either of those 2 years, despite being clearly the more exciting of the candidates between him and Joe Biden, and Hillary Clinton for sure, is that they have superdelegates, and superdelegates are not beholden to anyone, and they can vote for whoever they want. So unless it renders the Democratic primaries almost a, what's the word I'm looking for? Just a show. In the end, the party professionals are going to choose who it is. Now, they don't want to lose, so what they're doing is they have pre-selected their chosen candidate, and that person is Gavin Newsom. Now, how do I know that? Because unless you're blind, deaf, and dumb, you didn't miss the world tour he was just on, where he met Xi in China and flew all over Asia, and I think he went to Israel too, I'm not positive about that, and he debated DeSantis, which was interesting. I'm not going to comment on that now. And the bottom line is he is being groomed. He's been in Iowa, he's been in all the states. He says he's just doing party fundraisers, but he's also, I said I wasn't going to comment, but the guy is just a, politicians lie, but this guy is at a whole different level of liar. So my personal favorite moment in the DeSantis Newsom debate was, and I'm not a big fan of DeSantis, I'm just pointing out this moment, over the last 4 years, statistically, about 750,000 people have moved out of California. And of those 750,000, about 498,000 of them moved to Florida. Now, that's not a big secret to anybody. I'm a native Floridian and I live in Arizona. So I see the Californians relocating to Arizona all the time. But in Arizona, we have a 2% flat tax. And in Florida, they have a zero tax on income. And no inheritance tax. And you can homestead your properties for unlimited amounts. I won't get into what all that means, but population moved to Florida. Now, having said that, Newsom, when asked, simply said, well, that doesn't explain the 450,000 people last year who moved to California from Florida, which is, he just made that up. But he repeated it 3 or 4 times. He's good, and he's slick. Now, a lot of times progressives confuse slick with desirable, and we're going to see if slick is going to be able to compete with blunt, because that's what Trump's going to be nominated. Every time they indict him, all they do is make him more popular. He's going to run away with it. I'm not even going to go into the Republican candidates because there's no point. There isn't going to be, short of, God forbid, Trump dying, he's going to be nominated. And then it's going to be a fight between the bull in the china shop and the slick. They both lie, but Newsom lies. Trump lies about his ego and who he is and how smart he is. Newsom lies about his policies and results. So it's going to be a really interesting juxtaposition. But anyway, back to Biden's impeachment. On Biden's impeachment, there's an awful lot of smoke. Okay, there's a lot of money that's changed hands, and that will be the pretense by which Biden drops out of the race. It'll happen in March. It'll happen in March because that's after Super Tuesday. And all the Democratic delegates, the vast majority of them, will have committed to Biden, who is shutting out Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and anybody else who would even think to run in the Democrat primaries. And then what he'll do is he will endorse Gavin Newsom, and he'll say he's stepping out of the way to help his son's defense and to aid in his own defense and blah, 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 and get rid of these MAGA Republicans, whatever other kind of rhetoric, if he can even put those words together or read a prepared statement or whatever it might be. It's getting increasingly clear that he can't. And Newsom will run against Trump, and there will be no other primaries because the Democrats love nothing more than to fix an election. And by that, I'm not saying illegally. They're fixing it legally, but it's still a fix. And the fix is in for Gavin Newsom, and Trump is going to be nominated. We don't even have to go through that. Now, how does this compare with the impeachment of Donald Trump? Well, there was no smoke. The smoke in the Trump impeachment, both 1 and 2, was all based upon Russian collusion, which supposedly happened and was alerted to the FBI through the Steele dossier. Now, the Durham investigation revealed clearly that the Steele dossier was manufactured, that no information in it was real, that there was a clear attempt to manipulate. And even though Durham didn't get any convictions, that's because he had to bring those cases in the District of Columbia, where it would be impossible to seat a jury that would be fair to Donald Trump or anything that had to do with Donald Trump. Just like I know Trump is going to be found guilty in this first round of indictments because they've been filing the indictments in districts where they know they're going to seat a jury that's going to be prejudiced ahead of time. They'll all just fall away on appeal because they're political prosecutions. I'm not going to get into that now, and I'm not endorsing Donald Trump. Well, I'm not endorsing anybody. You vote for whoever you want. Now, what I'm saying is the Trump impeachments were a political hit job. The Biden impeachment is justified. Now, will it come to impeachment? No. Will he be removed? No. He's simply going to drop out of the race. The impeachment will lose steam as the fall election speeds up, and then he'll leave office, and Trump or Newsom will, if there's criminal charges pending, he'll pardon him, and, well, Trump won't, so he better work hard for Newsom. But anyway, let's see, what else do I want to... Oh, one more thing. Before I go, I want to remind you, and I remind you to go to the 1964plan.org to check out our white papers and all the cool stuff that I want to share with you. I want to just point out who I think would be the best person. If I had to wave my magic Herbie wand and pick one person in America who I would put up for president right now, it would be Jared Polis, the governor of Colorado. Okay, just saying, check him out. We'll talk about more on him. He's not even running, guys. He's the photo-negative version of Ron DeSantis in that he's extremely competent, and DeSantis is extremely competent. He's handled hurricane after hurricane beautifully. Polis has also been, and during the COVID crisis, like DeSantis, liberalized Colorado, just like Florida, right away, even though he's a Democrat, and has been very reasonable, but he's socially a direct opposite. He's for recreational marijuana, calls it a huge success in Colorado, and would never pass speech limiting bills like DeSantis does or fire people like DeSantis does. It would make an interesting contrast. But Polis, in my opinion, he's also gay and Jewish, which would be a problem running for office. But I'm telling you, based on sheer talent, and I think the gay and Jewish thing can be overcome in this day and age. The problem is in the Democrat Party, half of them support the Hamas, and that's going to make it tough on Jared Polis to get nominated. I'm just saying, if I could wave my magic wand and pick the best candidate in all 50 states who has some kind of managerial experience to handle the nightmare that's coming upon us, it would be Jared Polis. Anyway, that's it. Remember, go to the 1964plan.org, and until tomorrow, operating then on a better phone and properly operating and getting everything downloaded, not being the boomer that I am, this is Herbie. I'll see you tomorrow.